They say trust is the foundation of every marriage. I used to believe that too, until the night I learned that even foundations can crack, silently, right under your feet. My name is Ethan. I'm 34, an architect from Portland, and for the past 8 years, I've been married to Lena. We weren't perfect, but we were stable. We shared bills, dreams, and Sunday mornings full of coffee and music. She worked in marketing, creative, outgoing, always surrounded by people who seemed to orbit her light. About 2 months ago, Lena told me she was planning a girls' trip with her 3 closest friends from college. A mental reset, she called it. 4 days at a luxury resort by the coast. Spa, cocktails, late-night talks. No husbands, no work, just laughter, she had said. I smiled, nodded, even helped her pack. I told her she deserved it. But there was something, a flicker in her eyes when she mentioned it, a little too much excitement when she read her messages. She'd been distant for weeks, constantly on her phone, replying with short smiles and vague answers. I chalked it up to stress. I told myself not to be paranoid. I was the logical one, the steady husband who didn't let imagination take control. That Friday morning, she kissed me goodbye. She smelled like jasmine and coconut, a scent she hadn't worn before. I watched her car disappear down the street and forced myself to believe it was fine. By the second day, the silence started to feel strange. She texted, "Having so much fun, Wi-Fi is bad, talk soon." No photos, no calls, just a single message. Something inside me started to itch. That quiet whisper you get when your gut knows something your mind refuses to admit. I wasn't proud of it, but I opened Find My iPhone. Her last location wasn't at the resort. It was 2 hours north, at a place called Lake Haven Villas, a couples-only retreat. At first, I thought it had to be a glitch. Then I zoomed in. There was the address, the PIN, and the name of a guest house I recognized. A luxury rental company Lena had once shown me online, while joking, "We should come here someday." My chest felt hollow. I called her. No answer. I waited an hour and called again. Straight to voicemail. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every detail. The long work nights, her new perfume, the way she suddenly started taking yoga classes every Wednesday. It all lined up too perfectly now. By the next morning, I made my choice. I wasn't going to sit in silence wondering. I was going to see it with my own eyes. I told my assistant I needed a spontaneous weekend getaway. I packed light, jeans, a gray hoodie, my camera bag. I got in the car and drove north. The further I went, the heavier the air felt. The highway twisted along the coastline, waves crashing below cliffs, and every mile closer made my stomach knot tighter. When I reached Lake Haven, the sun was setting. The villas looked like something out of a travel magazine. Glass walls, private decks, soft music drifting from the main bar, couples everywhere, holding hands, drinking wine, laughing, and there she was, Lena. She was sitting by the poolside bar wearing a white dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was loose, glowing in the low orange light. She was smiling. Not the casual smile she gave to friends, but that soft, intimate smile that used to belong to me. Next to her sat a man. Late 30s, well-dressed, confident. He leaned close, whispering in her ear, and she laughed. That full, careless laugh she hadn't used around me in months. My heart stopped. There's no way to prepare for that kind of sight. It's like your body forgets what air feels like. I watched as he placed his hand on her knee. She didn't move it away. Instead, she looked into his eyes and said something that made him grin wider. They clinked glasses, fingers brushing. It was him. Ryan Blake. I'd seen the name before, on her phone months ago, in a few texts she quickly deleted when she thought I wasn't looking. He was a client from her agency, some wealthy entrepreneur who owned half the local tech startups. Now he was the man touching my wife in a place she swore she was visiting with her friends. I didn't confront her then. Not yet. I checked into a nearby motel instead. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My brain was a storm of images. Her laugh, their hands, the lies she'd told. At sunrise, I returned. I watched them from a distance, sitting together at breakfast, walking hand in hand toward the beach. She took photos of him. He kissed her forehead. Every little detail hurt like a blade. I knew I needed proof, not for revenge, not even for court, but for myself, for closure. So I took out my camera. My hands shook as I snapped a photo from behind a column, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. I felt sick. This was my wife, the woman I had built a life with, the woman I trusted with everything. Around noon, they disappeared into one of the villas. I waited outside for almost 2 hours. When they finally came out, she wore his sweatshirt, and he was smiling like a man who just won something he'd wanted for a long time. That was it. I had my answer. The drive back home was a blur. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared ahead, letting the sound of the road drown out the noise in my head. By the time I got home, something inside me had changed. I wasn't broken. I wasn't angry. I was empty. And that emptiness was worse than any rage. I made a plan, a calm, deliberate plan. She would come home in 2 days, expecting the same husband who'd believe her stories. But this time, she'd walk into something different, something that would show her exactly what her lies had done. When she finally returned Sunday night, she looked radiant, sun-kissed, relaxed. She kissed me lightly and said, "You wouldn't believe how much fun we had." I smiled. "Oh, I bet you did." She laughed, completely unaware. She told me stories about fake moments, the boat ride, the girls' brunch, the late-night karaoke. Every detail was invented. I listened, nodding, filing each lie away. When she went upstairs to unpack, I opened her phone. I had installed a small tracking app months ago, something I used for our shared family calendar. I opened it and found the gallery folder she thought was hidden. Photos, videos, messages, her smile next to Ryan, their hands intertwined, a champagne toast with the caption, "To us." The final nail was a message from him. "Next time, we won't need to lie. I promise." That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, staring at her sleeping beside me, wondering when she had stopped loving me, when I had become invisible. The next morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. If she could lie to my face so effortlessly, then I would let her see what honesty really looked like. Not through screaming, not through chaos, but through the truth, quiet, undeniable, and devastating. The next morning, Lena woke up like nothing had changed. Sunlight streamed through the bedroom window, illuminating her face, calm, peaceful, completely oblivious to the storm inside me. I got out of bed quietly, made coffee, and sat at the table with her phone open in front of me. Every photo, every message, evidence of betrayal was laid out like a roadmap of deceit. When she came downstairs, she hummed a tune and said, "Good morning, honey. Coffee?" I looked at her and smiled. "Sure," I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. She handed me a cup, her fingers brushing mine. I didn't flinch. I didn't respond. I simply nodded, sipped, and studied her. I had spent 2 days planning this. Not revenge in the typical sense. No public humiliation, no shouting, no tears. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, the undeniable truth of what she'd done reflected back at her. I started subtly. I mentioned Ryan in conversation, not directly, not accusingly, just dropping casual references. "Didn't Ryan's company send you an email yesterday?" I asked, as if it were mundane. Her eyes flickered, a micro-expression, the briefest hint of fear. She laughed it off. "Oh, that's just work stuff," she said. I smiled. Perfect. She was already uncomfortable. Over the next few days, I started making small changes around the house. Photos of our happiest moments appeared in new frames in the living room. A digital photo frame displayed a continuous slideshow: birthday parties, vacations, wedding day, all memories she had chosen to betray. Every morning, she saw them. Every evening, she walked past them. Every glance reminded her that the life she had was real, tangible, and that she had risked it all.
Then came the confrontation. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I invited her for a quiet dinner at home. Candles, her favorite wine, soft music, a setting that mimicked intimacy. Halfway through the meal, I placed her phone in the middle of the table. I didn't speak. I just waited. Her eyes widened. Panic flashed across her face. "Ethan, I can explain," she stammered. I leaned back, taking a sip of wine, calm, collected. "I already know everything," I said. "The trip, Ryan, the photos, the messages. I saw it all." She swallowed hard. It's not what you think." I chuckled softly. "No, Lena, it's exactly what I think. And you need to see the consequences of your choices. Not with shouting, not with anger, but with truth." I told her I wanted a week of honesty. Every lie she had ever told, about work, about friends, about herself, she had to confess. Every hidden text, every secret meeting, every deceptive smile. She tried to dodge, she tried to cry, she tried to manipulate. I remained silent, letting her words, the truth, fill the room. By the end of the week, she was exhausted, emotionally drained, stripped of every mask she had worn. And I was free. Then I added the final touch. I planned a charity gala, one she had always wanted to attend, but she wouldn't be accompanied by Ryan or friends or distractions. She would go alone, wearing the dress she wore on the trip, walking past people who had no idea of her secrets, under the bright lights of society, fully exposed. Not humiliated, just alone. When the night came, she called, panicked, asking if she could invite Ryan. I said no. "I don't need him," I said calmly. "You need yourself tonight." She realized then the weight of her choices was not about me, not about shame, but about loss of trust. Months later, Lena and I never returned to the same marriage we had. We separated. Quietly, without drama. She moved into a new apartment. Ryan, he disappeared from her life as quickly as he had entered it. I rebuilt myself, my life, my work, and most importantly, my trust in myself. The lesson I wanted her to learn had nothing to do with punishment. It was about reflection, about looking at your own actions and understanding how fragile the trust of those who love you truly is. The hardest part wasn't discovering her infidelity. It was watching someone I once loved so deeply choose another path.
and realizing that the strongest revenge was letting truth and consequences speak louder than anger ever could. I still remember that night by the pool at Lake Haven. The smile, the hand on her knee, the careless laugh. It's burned into my memory, but now it doesn't hurt. Now it serves as a reminder. Some people show their true colors, not when everything is perfect, but when you're willing to see.